She had $5 left to her name. The well-dressed stranger forgot his wallet, and she paid for his coffee anyway, told him everyone deserves kindness. What she didn't know, the man in the corner booth was a mafia boss who never forgot a debt. By morning, he'd bought her entire diner. And he wasn't done changing her life. Elena Russo's feet were screaming by the time the clock hit 11:47 p.m. 13 hours. 2 double shifts back to back. The kind of day that made you forget what sitting down felt like. She wiped down the counter of Murphy's diner for what felt like the 100th time, her reflection staring back at her from the chrome napkin dispenser, dark circles under her eyes, hair falling out of its ponytail, the name tag slightly crooked. 28 years old and looking 40. Just 13 more minutes, she whispered to herself, glancing at the door. Please, no more customers. The universe, as usual, ignored her. The door chimed. Elena's shoulders sagged, but years of waitressing had trained her face into automatic pleasantness. She turned with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Then she actually looked at the man who'd just walked in. He was different. Not the usual truck driver or night shift worker grabbing pie and coffee before heading home. This man wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. His dark hair was perfectly styled, and even from across the diner, she could see the glint of an expensive watch on his wrist. But it was his eyes that caught her attention, sharp, calculating, like he was measuring everything in the room within seconds of entering, including her. 2 more men followed him in, wearing similar dark suits, but with an edge of alertness that made Elena's instincts prickle. They weren't businessmen, or at least not the normal kind. The man in the charcoal suit gestured toward the corner booth, and his companions immediately took positions at separate tables, one near the door, one near the kitchen. Strategic. Elena had worked enough late shifts in this part of Chicago to recognize security when she saw it. Great. Mobsters. Or lawyers. Maybe both. She grabbed a menu and walked over, her feet protesting every step. Welcome to Murphy's, she said, setting the menu down. Coffee to start. Please, his voice was smooth, cultured. East Coast accent, maybe. He didn't look at the menu. Just coffee. Black. Coming right up. As she turned away, she heard him make a phone call in Italian. Her grandmother had spoken Italian when Elena was little, before the cancer took her, so she caught fragments. Something about negotiations and the North Side territory, and by morning. Definitely not a lawyer. Elena poured his coffee, delivered it with practiced efficiency, and retreated behind the counter. She had $47 in her checking account, and another shift starting at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Whatever business this man had, it wasn't hers. She busied herself with closing tasks, refilling salt shakers, checking inventory, counting the registered drawer. At midnight, she flipped the open sign to closed and began wiping down the other tables. The man remained in his booth, making quiet calls, sipping coffee, looking remarkably at ease for someone discussing territory negotiations at midnight in a rundown diner. By 12:20, even his guards looked restless. Elena approached the table. Sir, I'm sorry, but we're closed. I can refill your coffee to go if you'd like. He looked up, and for the first time, she saw something almost human in those calculating eyes. Weariness. The kind she saw in her own mirror. Of course. My apologies, he reached into his jacket pocket, then his pants pockets. His expression shifted, just slightly, but enough for Elena to recognize the look. Everyone knew that look. The I forgot my wallet look. His guard by the door tensed, reaching for his phone, but the man held up one hand to stop him. It seems I've left my wallet in my other jacket, he said calmly, though Elena caught the flash of annoyance in his eyes. Not at her, at himself. Here's where most people would grovel, make excuses, promise to come back tomorrow. But this man simply stated it as fact, waiting to see how she'd respond. Elena was tired, bone-tired. She'd served coffee to politicians who stiffed her on tips, businessmen who snapped their fingers at her like she was a dog, and teenagers who left their tables looking like war zones. This man had been polite, quiet. He'd said please and thank you. And besides, she recognized that weariness in his eyes. Whatever empire he was building or war he was fighting, tonight he was just tired. You looked like you needed a break, Elena said, surprising herself with her own boldness. She pulled out 5 crumpled dollar bills from her apron pocket, her tip money from today, and set them on the table. Coffee's on me. For a moment, the diner was absolutely silent. The guard stared. One reached for his wallet, but the man shook his head almost imperceptibly. He looked at the $5, then at Elena, his expression unreadable. You're sure? It's $5, she shrugged, though those $5 were supposed to buy her breakfast tomorrow. Everyone needs kindness sometimes. Something shifted in his face. Not quite a smile, but close. What's your name? He asked. Elena. Elena, he repeated it like he was memorizing it. Thank you. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket with practiced ease. His guards immediately flanked him. As they walked toward the door, he paused and looked back at her. That was a rare thing, what you just did. Paying for coffee? Kindness without expectation, he tilted his head slightly. In my world, everything comes with strings attached. Then you're in the wrong world, Elena said simply. For the first time, he actually smiled. Small, but genuine. Perhaps I am. Good night, Elena. Good night. The door chimed as they left, and suddenly the diner felt very empty and very quiet. Elena locked the door behind them, finished her closing tasks, and walked home through the cold Chicago streets, wondering vaguely who that strange, tired man in the expensive suit had been. She never expected to see him again. She was wrong. Elena's alarm went off at 5:15 a.m., exactly 4 hours and 20 minutes after she'd fallen into bed. She groaned, slapped the snooze button, then remembered she couldn't afford to be late. Not with Marcus, the owner, already looking for excuses to cut hours. She dragged herself up, splashed cold water on her face, and pulled on her uniform, the same pale blue dress with white trim that every Murphy's waitress had worn since 1987. The morning shift started the same as always. Coffee brewing, griddle heating, Sam the cook arriving and grunting his usual greeting, which wasn't really a greeting at all. The regulars trickled in, Mr. Patterson with his newspaper and scrambled eggs, the construction crew grabbing coffee and donuts, Mrs. Chun ordering oatmeal and complaining about the temperature. Normal. Perfectly, blessedly normal. By 10 a.m., Elena had almost forgotten about the strange man from last night. Almost. She was refilling coffee for table 6 when Marcus emerged from his office, which was unusual. Marcus rarely left his office before noon, preferring to count money and avoid actual customers. Everyone, can I have your attention? His voice cracked slightly. The diner wasn't crowded, just the usual mid-morning lull, but the 5 customers present looked up curiously. Elena and the 2 other waitresses, Jennifer and Rosa, stopped what they were doing. Marcus looked pale. Actually pale. His normally ruddy face had gone almost gray. I have an announcement, he cleared his throat. As of this morning, Murphy's Diner has been sold to a new investor. The coffee pot nearly slipped from Elena's hand. What? Jennifer gasped. Sold. Rosa's voice pitched high. Since when? The deal went through last night. Paperwork was finalized at 3 a.m. Marcus wouldn't meet their eyes. The new owner takes possession immediately. Elena's stomach dropped. She'd worked at Murphy's for 3 years. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. She needed steady. Her apartment, her groceries, the payments she sent to her brother for his community college tuition, all of it depended on this job. Are we fired? Jennifer asked, voicing what everyone was thinking. I don't, Marcus started, but the door chimed, cutting him off. 3 men in dark suits entered. Professional. Serious. The one in front carried a leather briefcase and had the bearing of a corporate lawyer. Marcus Murphy? The man asked. That's me. I'm James Carrington, representing the new ownership. May we speak in your office? These are my employees. Whatever you have to say concerns them directly. Yes, Carrington's expression didn't change. Then I'll make this brief. Effective immediately, Murphy's Diner undergoes new management. However, there will be 0 layoffs. Silence. 0. Rosa repeated. Correct. In fact, all current staff will receive a 20% pay increase, effective immediately. The diner will close for renovations starting Monday. All employees will be paid in full during the closure. Renovations are expected to take 2 weeks. Elena's mind reeled. This couldn't be real. People didn't just buy diners and give everyone raises. There had to be a catch. What's the catch? She heard herself ask. Carrington turned to her, and something in his expression shifted. Recognition? No, that couldn't be right. No catch, miss. Russo. Elena Russo. He pulled a folder from his briefcase and scanned a document. Ah. Miss Russo. Actually, the new owner specifically requested you be promoted to floor manager. You'll oversee daily operations and staff scheduling. Salary increase of 45%. The room spun. I'm sorry, what? Elena's voice came out as barely a whisper. Floor manager, Carrington repeated patiently. The owner reviewed employee files and performance records. Your tenure, reliability, and customer service ratings were exemplary. Jennifer made a small sound that might have been protest or disbelief. Rosa just stared. I've been here longer, Jennifer said flatly. The decision is final, Carrington replied. Are there any questions about the transition? Marcus looked like he'd been hit by a truck. Who is the new owner? What's his name? The investor prefers to remain anonymous for now. All communications will go through me. Carrington handed Marcus several business cards. These are for you and the management team. Miss Russo, you'll need one as well. Elena took the card automatically, her fingers numb. The card was simple, expensive-looking. Carrington Legal Associates, with a phone number and email. Renovations begin Monday at 6 a.m. A contractor will meet you here to discuss the scope of work. Miss Russo, you'll be consulted on all customer-facing changes. The owner wants someone with ground-level experience making decisions. This is insane, Marcus muttered. This is business, Mr. Murphy. Carrington closed his briefcase. Oh, and one more thing. The diner's name stays the same. Murphy's has history in this neighborhood. The owner respects that. He left as efficiently as he'd arrived, his associates following silently. The diner erupted. 20% raise? Sam poked his head out from the kitchen. What about cooks? Everyone, he said, everyone. Rosa grabbed Elena's arm. Did that really just happen? Jennifer wasn't celebrating. She glared at Elena. 3 years I've been here. 3 years. And you get promoted? What did you do? Nothing, Elena protested. I don't understand this any more than you do. But even as she said it, something nagged at her memory. Last night, the man in the corner booth. Those sharp, calculating eyes. In my world, everything comes with strings attached. No. That was crazy. 1 cup of coffee couldn't. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She opened the text message. Consider your kindness returned. Don't worry, there are no strings. Just gratitude. Elena's hands trembled as she stared at the screen. Luca? Leonardo? Lorenzo? Who was he? And what had she just gotten herself into? Elena couldn't focus for the rest of the day. The lunch rush came and went in a blur. She mechanically took orders, poured coffee, smiled at customers, all while her mind raced. The text message. The anonymous investor. The impossible timing. Jennifer barely spoke to her, slamming dishes down harder than necessary. Rosa kept giving her curious looks. Marcus had locked himself in his office and hadn't come out since Carrington left. By 6 p.m., Elena's shift should have ended, but she stayed. She couldn't go home, not with all these questions burning in her mind. She needed answers. The dinner crowd was thin. A Tuesday evening in this neighborhood never pulled much traffic. Elena was wiping down the counter when the door chimed at 7:15. She looked up. Her breath caught. The man from last night walked in, and this time there was no mystery about who he was. He wore a different suit, navy blue, equally expensive, and carried himself with the same quiet confidence. His two guards followed, taking the same strategic positions as before. But now Elena knew. Now everyone knew. Jennifer froze mid-pour, coffee dripping onto the table. Sam stopped flipping burgers. Rose's eyes went wide as dinner plates. The man, Luca, whoever he was, walked directly to the counter where Elena stood. Their eyes met. "Hello again, Elena." His voice was calm, almost gentle, but it seemed to echo in the suddenly silent diner. Behind her, she heard Sam's sharp intake of breath. "You," Elena said quietly. "You're the investor." "I am." He glanced around the diner with an appraising look. "May I sit?" Elena gestured to the counter stool in front of her, her professional autopilot kicking in even as her heart hammered. "Coffee, please." Black as before. She poured with steady hands. Years of waitressing made certain movements automatic, even in crisis. She set the cup in front of him, very aware that every person in the diner was watching. "Why?" The question came out before she could stop it. Luca wrapped his hands around a coffee cup, and Elena noticed his knuckles, scarred, like he'd done hard work once, despite the expensive suits. "Last night, you showed me something I haven't seen in a very long time." $5? Kindness without angle. He took a sip of coffee. "In my world, every gesture comes with expectation. Every favor requires repayment. Every smile hides a transaction." He set the cup down carefully. "You gave me coffee with the last money in your pocket, expected nothing in return, and went home to sleep in a building with broken heating because your landlord won't fix it." Elena blinked. "How do you?" "I make it my business to know things." His tone wasn't threatening, just matter of fact. "After you left last night, I had my people look into this diner. Murphy's. Struggling, behind on permits, owner considering bankruptcy. Good bones, loyal customers, but slowly dying." "So you bought it." Elena's voice was steadier than she felt. "Because of $5. Because you reminded me that decent people still exist." Luca leaned forward slightly. "And decent people deserve better than working themselves to death for owners who don't appreciate them. Consider this my thank you." Elena shook her head. "That's insane. People don't buy diners to say thank you."
Ido.
The simple statement hung in the air. Behind Luca, one of his guards spoke quietly into a phone. The other had moved to the window, looking out at the street with professional alertness. "What's your name?" Elena asked. "Your full name?"
Luca de Santis.
The name meant nothing to Elena, but she saw Rosa's face go pale in her peripheral vision. Jennifer actually took a step back.
"So it meant something to them."
"Should I know that name?" Elena asked carefully. Luca's mouth quirked. "That depends on what circles you travel in. Let's just say I have varied business interests in Chicago." Varied business interests was definitely a euphemism. "And now Murphy's Diner is one of those interests." "Now Murphy's is protected," Luca corrected quietly. "No one will bother you, your staff, or your customers. The neighborhood will be safer. The diner will thrive." Protected from what? Things you don't need to worry about. It wasn't an answer, but the way he said it, with absolute certainty, made Elena believe him. One of his guards approached. "Sir, perimeter is clear, but we should establish regular protocols." Luca nodded. "Do it discreetly. I don't want customers frightened." "Yes, sir." The guard moved toward the back of the diner, probably to check the alley entrance. The other remained by the window. Elena watched this play out, realization settling over her like cold water. This wasn't just about a diner anymore. Luca de Santis had turned Murphy's into something else, a statement, a territory marker, a piece on some larger board she couldn't see. "I can't accept this," she said quietly. "You already have. Paperwork's filed. Renovations start Monday. Luca finished his coffee. But I understand your concern. So let me be clear. I expect nothing from you except what you've already given me. Do your job well. Run this diner. That's all. That's all. That's all. He stood, placing a crisp $100 bill on the counter. For the coffee. Keep the change. Luca, Mr. DeSantis. Just Luca. He met her eyes, and again she saw that weariness beneath the power. I'm not your enemy, Elena. I'm just a man who's tired of cold worlds and colder coffee. You made both warmer for a moment. Let me return the favor. He walked to the door, his guards falling into formation. I'll be back, he said without turning around. I find I like this place.
The door chimed.
They were gone. The diner remained frozen for 3 full seconds. Then everyone started talking at once. Monday morning arrived like a storm. Elena showed up at 5:30 a.m. to find the diner already swarming with workers. A moving truck idled at the curb. Men in work boots carried out the old booths she'd wiped down 1,000 times. The ancient jukebox that hadn't worked since 2019 was being carefully loaded onto a dolly. Miss Russo? A man in a hard hat approached, clipboard in hand. I'm Tony Marchetti, head contractor. Mr. DeSantis said you're in charge of customer-facing decisions. Elena stared at the organized chaos. What exactly are we doing? Everything, Tony grinned. New booths, new flooring, industrial kitchen upgrades, new espresso machine, the real Italian kind, not the drip stuff, fresh paint, new lighting.
2 weeks, he said.
I've got 40 guys. We'll do it in 10-inch. 10 days later, Elena barely recognized Murphy's diner. The old cracked red booths had been replaced with rich leather seating, burgundy, classic, comfortable. The black and white checkered floor gleamed. New pendant lights hung over each table, giving the space a warm, intimate glow. The kitchen had been transformed into something Sam called a professional's dream, with new grills, ovens, and a refrigeration system that actually worked. The biggest change was behind the counter, a gleaming espresso machine that looked like it belonged in a Milan cafe, all chrome and brass and intimidating buttons. You know how to work this thing? Rosa asked, staring at it. I took a class, Elena admitted. Luca, Mr. DeSantis, sent someone to train me. Apparently, proper espresso is non-negotiable. Rosa raised an eyebrow. Luca, huh? First name basis now. That's what he asked me to call him. Rosa's tone was loaded with meaning. The reopening drew crowds. Word had spread through the neighborhood. Murphy's had been bought by someone with money, real money, and the place looked incredible. Customers packed in, curious and hungry. And Luca came every day. Not all day. He'd arrive around 7 p.m., after the dinner rush, but before closing. Always the same booth in the corner. Always with at least one guard, though they tried to blend in now, wearing casual clothes instead of obvious suits. He'd sit, order coffee and whatever Sam's special was and watch. Just watch. It unnerved some of the staff. Jennifer practically trembled when she had to serve a section. Rosa got gossipy, speculating loudly in the back about what a man like that wants with a place like this. But Elena treated him exactly like any other customer. Coffee, Luca? She'd ask, pot in hand. Please. Sam made osso buco tonight. Want to try it? Sam's recommendation hasn't steered me wrong yet. She'd bring his food, check if he needed anything, and move on to the next table. Professional. Polite. Nothing more. And she noticed, though she tried not to, how his eyes followed her as she worked. Not leering, not possessive. Observant. Like he was studying a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. By the end of week 2, the gossip started in earnest. It began with customers. Mrs. Chung, who'd been coming to Murphy's for 15 years, leaned over the counter one morning. That man who comes every evening. He's the new owner, yes. Yes, ma'am. And you're the manager now. Floor manager, yes. Mrs. Chen's expression turned knowing. How nice for you, dear. Landing on your feet like that. The implication stung, but Elena kept her smile fixed. I've worked here for 3 years, Mrs. Chen. I earned the promotion. Of course you did, dear. Of course. But the seed was planted. Within days, Elena overheard snippets. She must be sleeping with him. Why else would a guy like that buy a diner? She played it smart, I'll give her that. The boss's girl? Definitely. Jennifer didn't even bother whispering. Must be nice, she said loudly while Elena was within earshot. Getting a head on your back instead of your feet.
Elena spuna rond.
Say that again. Jennifer's confidence wavered but held. Everyone's thinking it. I'm just saying it. I've done nothing except my job. Elena's voice was cold. The same job I'd done for 3 years while you showed up late and left early. If you have a problem with my promotion, take it up with Mr. DeSantis. Otherwise, get back to work. Jennifer's face flushed, but she backed down. That evening, Luca arrived at his usual time. Elena brought his coffee automatically, her movements sharp with residual anger. Rough day, he asked mildly. Nothing I can't handle. The staff giving you trouble? Elena met his eyes. People talk. It's what they do. What are they saying? She hesitated, then decided honesty was simpler. That I'm sleeping with you. That the promotion was payment for services rendered. That I'm the boss's girl. Luca's expression darkened. Names. Who said this? It doesn't matter. It matters to me. No, Elena set the coffee pot down firmly. This is my problem to handle. I don't need you fighting my battles. I caused this problem by giving me an opportunity one earned.
Elena interrupted.
I was the best waitress here. I showed up on time, every time. I covered shifts when people called in sick. I knew every regular's order by heart. Maybe the timing was unconventional, but I earned this position. Lucas studied her for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. You did. So people can think what they want. I know the truth. And what is the truth, Elena? She met his gaze steadily. That you paid for a cup of coffee. That's all. Something flickered in his eyes. Approval, maybe, or respect. That's all, he agreed quietly. But as Elena walked away to help another customer, she felt his eyes on her back, and she wondered if either of them actually believed that anymore. The truth, she was starting to realize, was far more complicated than a cup of coffee. And much more dangerous. The first time Elena noticed the van, she didn't think much of it. It was a Thursday night, 2 weeks after the reopening. The diner closed at midnight, and Elena had started staying late to do inventory and prepare the next day's orders. Manager responsibilities she was still getting used to. At 12:30 a.m., taking out the trash to the back alley, she saw it. A white panel van parked across the street, engine off, windows tinted dark. Odd, but this was Chicago. Delivery vans parked overnight all the time. She dumped the trash bags and went back inside, locking the heavy back door behind her. The second time was Saturday. Same van, same spot. This time, she noticed a faint glow from inside, like someone was using a laptop or phone. Again, not necessarily suspicious. Maybe a driver sleeping between shifts. But Monday night, the van was there again. And this time, Elena saw 2 men standing near the corner bodega, both wearing dark jackets despite the warm May evening. They weren't shopping. They weren't smoking. Just
standing.
Watching. One of them looked directly at the diner's back door as Elena emerged with the trash. Their eyes met for a second too long. Elena's instincts, the same instincts that had kept her safe through 3 years of late-night shifts in a rough neighborhood, started screaming. She went back inside quickly, locked the door, and stood in the kitchen for a moment, heart racing. You okay? Sam was finishing the final cleanup, wiping down the grill.
Yeah, just.
Thought I saw something. What kind of something? Probably nothing, but Elena pulled out her phone and texted the number Luca had given her for any concerns, day or night. There's a van that's been parked in the alley for 3 nights. And men watching the back entrance. Could be nothing, but it feels wrong. The response came within 30 seconds. Stay inside. Don't go out back again tonight. Someone will handle it. Handle what? Sam asked, seeing her expression. I don't know yet. 20 minutes later, as Elena was counting the register, she heard voices in the alley. Not loud, but firm. Authoritative. She moved to the back door, listening. Private property. You need to move along. We're not doing anything illegal. Public parking. This street is private. You want me to call CPD, or you want to leave now? A pause. Then an engine starting. Through the small window, Elena watched the white van pull away, followed by the two men on foot, walking quickly toward a dark sedan parked 2 blocks down. A moment later, someone knocked on the back door. Elena tensed, but a familiar voice called out. Miss Russo, it's Marcus. Luca's head of security. She opened the door to find a man in his 40s, built like a boxer, with gray threading through his dark hair. She'd seen him with Luca before, but had never spoken to him directly. Everything all right? Elena asked. Marcus's expression was grim. Those men won't bother you again tonight. But we need to do a sweep. You got a minute. A sweep? Check for anything they might have left behind. Elena's stomach tightened. What would they leave? Hopefully nothing. Marcus gestured to a younger man behind him carrying what looked like a high-tech detector. This is Joey. He's going to check the perimeter. Won't take long. Elena let them in, watching as Joey moved methodically through the back area with his device, sweeping walls, the doorframe, the dumpster area outside. What exactly is that thing? Sam had emerged from the kitchen, alarmed. Bug detector, Marcus said bluntly. Looking for listening devices.
Jesus Christ, something.
What kind of diner needs bug detectors? The kind owned by Luca DeSantis, Elena thought but didn't say. Joey spent 15 minutes checking every inch of the back area. Finally, he called Marcus over, pointing to something near the alley dumpster. Marcus's jaw tightened. He pulled out a small object, barely bigger than a quarter, from behind a drain pipe. Got one, he said quietly, holding it up. Professional grade. Elena's blood ran cold. Someone bugged our diner? They tried. Marcus crushed the device under his boot. Joey, check the perimeter again. Full sweep. They found 2 more, one near the back entrance, another tucked under the windowsill of the kitchen. Who were those people?
Elena demanded.
Marcus hesitated, clearly weighing how much to tell her. Competitors. Luca's presence in this neighborhood has drawn attention. People want to know what he's planning. He's not planning anything. It's a diner. To them, nothing Luca DeSantis does is just anything. Marcus's expression softened slightly. Look, Miss Russo, you don't need to worry about this. We'll have people watching the street. No one gets close to this place again without us knowing. People watching? Sam's voice pitched high. Are we in danger? No, Marcus said firmly. You're safer now than you've ever been. Those guys were fishing, trying to gather intel. They won't try again, trust me. But Elena didn't feel safe. She felt like she'd stumbled into the middle of something much bigger than a renovated diner. After Marcus and Joey left, Elena finished closing in silence. Sam left quickly, clearly spooked. Elena locked up and stood alone in the diner, looking at the beautiful new booths, the gleaming espresso machine, the warm lighting. All of it felt different now. Tainted. Her phone buzzed. You did the right thing, alerting us immediately. Thank you. Elena stared at the message, then typed back. What have I gotten myself into? The response came after a long pause. Something I never intended.
I'm sorry.
We need to talk. Tomorrow night, after closing? Elena closed her eyes. Part of her wanted to quit, to walk away from Murphy's and Luca DeSantis and whatever dangerous world he inhabited. But another part, the part that had survived 3 years of poverty and double shifts and never giving up, that part was tired of running. Tomorrow night, she typed. But I want the truth. All of it. You'll have it. I promise. The next evening, Elena arrived early for her conversation with Luca, her mind rehearsing a dozen different speeches. She'd demand answers. She'd set boundaries. She'd make it clear that she was a diner manager, not a pawn in whatever game he was playing. But the universe had other plans. At 6 p.m., during the dinner rush, a delivery truck pulled into the alley. Not unusual, they got deliveries twice a week. But this truck had no company logo. Just plain white panels, slightly dented. Elena was seating customers when she noticed it through the kitchen window. Something about it nagged at her. Sam, we expecting a delivery tonight? Sam checked his clipboard. Nope. Next one's Thursday. Elena moved to the window for a better look. The truck had backed up to the dumpster area, the exact spot where they'd found the listening devices 2 nights ago. The driver stayed in the cab, didn't get out, just sat there. 45 minutes later, the truck was still there. Marcus's security guy, the one called Joey, was stationed near the front entrance, casually reading a newspaper. Elena approached him quietly. That delivery truck. How long has it been there? Joey glanced toward the alley. 15, maybe 20 minutes. Try 45. And the driver hasn't gotten out once. Joey's casual demeanor evaporated. He stood immediately, hand going to his phone. You sure? I've been watching. Joey spoke rapidly into his phone, then moved toward the back. 2 minutes later, Marcus appeared from the front entrance where he must have been doing perimeter checks. The truck, Marcus asked Elena directly. Arrived at 6:07. It's now 6:52. Driver hasn't moved. Marcus's expression turned sharp. He gestured to Joey. Get the plate. Run it. And get eyes on that driver, without spooking him. Elena watched as Joey casually walked past the truck, phone to his ear like he was on a call, angling to see the license plate. He returned quickly, typing rapidly into his phone. Plate comes back to a shell company, Joey reported 2 minutes later. Same one that owned the van from Monday night. Marcus's jaw clenched. They're getting bold. He looked at Elena with new respect. How did you notice? Joey's been doing exterior sweeps every hour. The driver's posture, Elena said. Real delivery guys are always checking paperwork, looking at their phones, getting impatient. This guy is just still. Too still. Like he's listening to something. Or recording something, Marcus muttered. He pulled out his phone. Boss needs to know about this. 10 minutes later, Luca arrived, not through the front entrance but through the kitchen back door, flanked by 3 men Elena hadn't seen before. He moved with purpose, his usual calm replaced by something harder. Show me, he said to Marcus. They gathered in the kitchen. Through the window, the truck remained motionless. Elena spotted it, Marcus said. Been there almost an hour. Driver hasn't exited. Plate traces to the same outfit from Monday. Luca's eyes found Elena. You noticed this? The timing felt wrong. And delivery drivers don't sit that still. No, they don't. Luca studied her face. What else did you notice? Elena thought back. The truck has a small antenna on the roof. Most delivery trucks don't have those. And he backed in perfectly on the first try, which means he's either very experienced or he's been here before, practicing. Luca exchanged a glance with Marcus. She's right. That's a surveillance antenna. Could be recording audio from the bugs they already planted, Marcus said. The bugs you destroyed? Elena asked. Some people don't give up that easy, Luca said grimly. Marcus, I want that truck cleared out.
Now.
Send a message they'll understand. This location is permanently off limits. How strong a message? Marcus asked carefully. No violence. Not here, not near the diner. But make it expensive for them. Very expensive. Marcus nodded and left with his team. Through the window, Elena watched as 5 men in dark clothing appeared from various positions around the block. They'd been there the whole time, unseen. They surrounded the truck efficiently. The driver tried to start the engine, but one of Marcus's men had already slashed the tires. Another was photographing the driver's face through the window. A third held up a police badge. Whether real or fake, Elena couldn't tell, and the driver's hands went up in surrender. 15 minutes later, a police tow truck arrived and hauled the vehicle away. The driver was escorted off in a different direction by 2 of Marcus's men. What will happen to him? Elena asked quietly. Luca had been watching the whole thing in silence. Now, he turned to her. He'll be questioned, photographed, fingerprinted, and sent back to his employers with a clear message. This territory is closed. Then we'll make sure his employers pay 10 times what that surveillance operation cost them.
How?
Ways that don't concern you, but his tone wasn't dismissive, it was protective. He studied her for a moment. My head of security has been doing this work for 15 years. Military background, trained in counter-surveillance. You spotted what he missed. I just paid attention. No, Luca's voice was firm. You saw what trained professionals missed because you understand patterns, rhythms, what's normal and what isn't. That's not common. That's valuable. Elena felt heat rise to her cheeks. I was just being observant. Strategic, Luca glanced at Marcus, who had returned. Tell me, honestly, what do you think about the front entrance security? Any concerns? Elena blinked at the sudden shift. You want my opinion? I do.
She thought about it.
Joey reads a newspaper by the door. It looks casual, but everyone knows he's security. It makes nervous customers more nervous. Maybe have him inside at a booth? Still watching, but less obvious. Luca looked at Marcus. Thoughts? Marcus nodded slowly. She's got a point. We've gotten complaints about the guy at the door looking intimidating. Implement it, Luca said. Then to Elena. What else? The delivery schedule. Sam posts it on the kitchen wall where anyone can see it. If someone wanted to know when we're vulnerable. Keep the schedule private, Luca interrupted, nodding. Marcus, add that to protocols. Elena felt strange, empowered but also pulled deeper into something she didn't fully understand. Luca's expression softened slightly. You still want to talk about the truth? More than ever. Then let's talk. After the last customer left and Rosa had gone home, Elena locked the front door and flipped the sign to close. The diner felt different at night. Quieter, more intimate, with just the soft glow of the pendant lights and the hum of the refrigerators. Luca sat in his usual corner booth. His guards had taken positions outside, giving them privacy. Elena poured 2 cups of coffee and slid into the booth across from him, something she'd never done before. It felt like crossing an invisible line. So, she said, the truth. Luca wrapped his hands around his cup, and for a moment, he just looked tired. Human. What do you want to know? Who are these people watching us? What do they want? They're a rival organization. The Corsini family, out of the north side. They've controlled certain neighborhoods for 20 years. When I bought this diner, it sent a message that I'm expanding my territory. But you're not, Elena said. You bought one diner. In their world, one move means 100 more are coming. They're testing my defenses, trying to understand my plans. He met her eyes. The truth is, I don't have plans. Not the kind they think. Then why did you really buy Murphy's? Luca was quiet for a long moment. When I was 8 years old, my mother used to take me to a diner just like this one. Same red booths, same black and white floor, same smell of coffee and bacon in the morning. His voice had gone softer, remembering. We didn't have much. My father had died the year before. Mom worked 2 jobs. But every Sunday morning, she'd take me to that diner and we'd split pancakes and orange juice, and for 1 hour, we'd pretend everything was okay. Elena found herself leaning forward, listening. When I walked in here that night, exhausted from negotiations that would have made me a lot of money, but cost me a piece of my soul. I sat in that booth and smelled the coffee, and for a second, I was 8 years old again. Safe. Before everything got complicated, he looked up at her. Then you paid for my coffee with money you needed for yourself, and didn't ask for anything back. That kind of goodness, it's rare. Maybe I wanted to preserve it. Does that make sense? It does, Elena said quietly. More than you know. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. What about you? Luca asked. Why Murphy's? You're smart, observant. You could do better than waitressing. Could I? Elena's laugh was bitter. I dropped out of college after my first year. My mom got sick, cancer, and someone had to take care of her and my younger brother and sister. I was the oldest, so I worked. Your mother? She died 3 years ago. Elena stared into her coffee. My brother, Danny, he's 20 now. In community college studying engineering. My sister, Mia, she's 17, senior year of high school. Wants to be a veterinarian, her voice filled with pride. They're good kids. Smart. They deserve their chance. So you gave up yours. I didn't give up anything. I chose. Elena met his eyes. They're my family. You do what you have to do. Luca nodded slowly. Family above everything. I understand that. Is that why you do what you do? Your business? Partly. Luca's expression darkened. After my mother died, I was 16. I had nothing. No family, no money, no future. The streets of Chicago aren't kind to kids like that. I learned to survive. Then I learned to thrive. Then I learned that power is the only thing that keeps you safe. He paused. But power comes with a cost. Loneliness. Elena guessed. Among other things, he looked at her with something like wonder. You see things others don't. You're not that hard to read. Everyone else finds me impossible to read. Maybe they're looking for the wrong things. The air between them shifted, charged with something unspoken. Luca's gaze held hers, and Elena felt her heart rate pick up. She broke eye contact first, standing to refill their cups. So, what happens now? With the Corsini family?
They'll test me a few more times.
I'll respond. Eventually, they'll realize this location isn't worth the trouble and back off. And if they don't, they will. The certainty in his voice was absolute. Elena returned to the booth, but didn't sit immediately. You know people are talking about us. Let them talk. It doesn't bother you. Should it? Luca tilted his head. You're brilliant at your job. You've improved operations, kept staff morale up despite the changes, and you've spotted security concerns my trained professionals missed. If people want to reduce that to gossip, that's their limitation, not yours. Elena felt warmth spread through her chest. Thank you. For what? For seeing me, not just what you wanted to see, but actually seeing me. That works both ways, Luca said quietly. Their eyes met again, and this time neither looked away. The moment stretched, heavy with possibility. Finally, Luca stood. It's late. You should get home. I usually stay until 1 doing inventory. Tomorrow. I'll have Marcus walk you out tonight. Elena wanted to argue, to assert her independence, but the genuine concern in his expression stopped her. Okay. As she gathered her things, Luca spoke again. Elena? That Sunday diner I told you about. Yeah. It closed 10 years ago. Torn down for condos. His voice was quiet. This place, Murphy's, it feels like getting a piece of that back. Thank you for that. Elena's throat tightened. Thank you for giving me a chance to build something better. For me and my family. They stood there, just looking at each other, the air thick with everything they weren't saying. Then Marcus knocked on the door, breaking the spell. See you tomorrow?
Luca asked.
Tomorrow, Elena confirmed. But as she walked to her car, Marcus following at a respectful distance, Elena knew something fundamental had shifted between them. It wasn't about a diner anymore. It was about two people who'd built walls to survive, finding someone who understood what those walls cost. And maybe, just maybe, finding the courage to let them down. The trouble walked in at 10:15 p.m. on a quiet Wednesday night. Elena noticed them immediately, 3 men in dark jackets, moving with the kind of casual coordination that set off alarm bells. They didn't look at the menu board, didn't scan for empty tables. Just walked straight to the counter, where Elena was refilling napkin dispensers. The leader was tall, maybe 50, with graying hair slicked back and cold blue eyes. His companions flanked the exits, one by the door, one near the kitchen hallway. Joey, stationed at his usual booth, tensed. His hand drifted toward his phone. Evening, the leader said, his voice smooth but edged with threat. You must be Elena. I've heard a lot about you. Can I get you gentlemen something? Elena kept her tone professional, her hands steady despite her racing heart. Information, actually, he leaned against the counter. Beautiful renovation. Must have cost, what, 200,000? Maybe more? I wouldn't know the exact numbers. No? Funny. Since you're the manager, his smile didn't reach his eyes. Here's the thing about nice establishments in this neighborhood. They need proper protection. Insurance, you might say, against unfortunate incidents. Elena's stomach dropped. Here it was. The threat they'd been waiting for. We have insurance, she said carefully. Not the kind I'm selling. He pulled out a business card, completely blank except for a phone number. 5,000 a month. Keeps your windows intact, your equipment working, your customers safe. Very reasonable, considering the alternative. Alternative. Accidents happen. Grease fires. Vandalism. Customer complaints about food poisoning, even when the food is perfectly fine. Bad for business, he tapped the card on the counter. But with our protection, none of that happens. Clean, safe, profitable. Everyone's happy. Elena saw Joey's reflection in the chrome napkin holder. He was typing rapidly under the table. Good. Help was coming.
She just needed to buy time.
That's a significant monthly expense, Elena said, picking up the card and studying it. What exactly does the service include? The man's eyes narrowed slightly. Peace of mind. I understand, but I need specifics for our records. Tax purposes, you know. Elena grabbed a pen and notepad, playing the role of diligent manager. Is this a security patrol service? Armed or unarmed guards? What hours of coverage? You're funny, but he wasn't smiling. I'm thorough, Elena wrote protection services on the pad. And I need to justify any expense over $1,000 to the owner. So help me understand, if we pay $5,000 monthly and something still happens, is there a guarantee? A refund policy? Nothing will happen. But hypothetically, there's no hypothetical, his voice hardened. You pay, you're protected. You don't pay, you're not. It's simple. One of his companions shifted near the door. The other checked his watch. They were getting impatient. Elena glanced at the clock. Joey had sent the message 3 minutes ago. How long until backup arrived? I'll need to contact Mr. DeSantis, Elena said. He handles all major contracts. You do that, the man pulled out his own phone. We'll wait. Elena dialed, praying Luca would understand the situation immediately. He answered before the first ring finished. Elena. Mr. DeSantis, I apologize for calling so late. She kept her voice calm, professional. There are some representatives here discussing a monthly protection service. They're asking for $5,000. I wanted to get your approval before. How many men? Luca's voice was sharp. 3. Weapons visible. Not visible, but I believe so. Are you safe right now? I'm speaking with them professionally, yes. Keep them talking. 3 minutes. I'm already on my way. The line stayed connected. Luca didn't hang up, he was listening. Elena set the phone down on the counter, speaker side down but still on. He's reviewing the proposal, she told the men. But he has some questions about the coverage area. Coverage area? The leader's patience was fraying. Well, yes. Does the $5,000 cover just the diner interior? Or does it include the parking lot? The alley? Our delivery zone. Elena pulled out a folder from under the counter, shuffling papers unnecessarily. We've had issues with the alley before, so if that's not included, it covers everything. Everything? Because we're planning to expand our outdoor seating next month. Would that be covered under the current rate, or would that require an additional fee? The man's jaw clenched. You're stalling. I'm doing my due diligence. Elena met his eyes steadily. $5,000 is a lot of money. I want to make sure we're getting our value. Your value is keeping this place standing. Is that a threat? It's a fact. The man by the door suddenly stiffened, looking out at the street. Boss, we got company. 2 black SUVs had pulled up outside, moving fast. Car doors opened, and men in dark clothing emerged with military efficiency. The leader's expression went from confident to trapped in seconds. Marcus came through the front door first, 3 men behind him. Through the kitchen, Elena heard the back door open, more security flooding in. And then Luca walked in, his face a mask of controlled fury. "Gentlemen," his voice was quiet, dangerous. "You're in the wrong establishment." The leader tried to recover. "Just having a business discussion." "You threatened my manager. In my diner." In front of my customers, Luca moved closer, and despite being shorter than the other man, he seemed to fill the entire space. "That was a mistake. The Corsini family won't. The Corsini family just declared war. And they sent you to deliver the message." Luca's smile was cold. "Marcus, escort these gentlemen out. Make sure Mr. Corsini understands that Murphy's Diner is permanently off-limits. Any further approach will be considered an act of aggression." "You can't stop." "I just did." Luca's voice dropped even lower. "And if you, or anyone associated with Corsini, comes within 3 blocks of this location again, the consequences won't be a conversation. They'll be permanent. Do we understand each other?" The men were escorted out, surrounded by security. Within minutes, the diner was clear. Elena finally exhaled, her hands shaking as the adrenaline drained away. Luca was beside her instantly. "You okay?" "I will be." She looked at him. "This is really happening, isn't it? This is your world. It doesn't have to be yours." "It already is." Elena's voice was steadier than she felt. "The moment I paid for that coffee, I became part of this." Luca studied her face. "I can protect you, but I can't guarantee your safety 100%. Not if you stay." "Then don't guarantee it. Just be honest with me. Always." "I can do that." "Good." Elena took a deep breath. "Now tell Marcus to triple the security. If we're doing this, we're doing it right." Luca's expression shifted. Surprise, respect, something deeper. "You're serious." "Dead serious." He nodded slowly. "Then Murphy's becomes a fortress. 24-hour surveillance, armed security, the works. No one touches this place again." As he made calls, coordinating the new security measures, Elena cleaned up her scattered papers. Her hands had stopped shaking. She'd made her choice. She was standing her ground. The photograph appeared online 3 days after the incident. Elena didn't see it at first. She was too busy dealing with the aftermath, the new security protocols, the worried regular customers, the staff who were spooked by what had happened. Rosa showed it to her during the lunch rush, phone screen thrust forward, with barely concealed concern. "You need to see this." It was a tabloid website, Chicago Crime Watch, one of those sensationalist blogs that thrived on mob gossip and underworld drama. The headline read, "DeSantis claims new territory, but is it business or pleasure?" Below it, a photograph. Luca standing outside Murphy's Diner, his hand on Elena's shoulder. The angle made it look intimate, protective. She was looking up at him, and the expression on her face, concern, trust, something softer, was unmistakable. The caption, "Mysterious waitress Elena Russo, now manager of DeSantis's latest acquisition." Sources say the crime boss has been personally invested in the Lincoln Park Diner. Romance or strategy? Elena's stomach turned. When was this taken? Night of the incident, probably. Look at the timestamp. The article went on to speculate about their relationship, about whether Luca was going soft for a woman, whether the diner was a front for money laundering, whether Elena was in on it, or just a pawn. By the end of the day, the photo had been shared across multiple platforms. By the end of the week, it had gone viral in Chicago's crime-watching circles. And the whispers became roars. Mrs. Chin stopped coming for her morning oatmeal. When Elena called to check on her, the older woman's voice was cold. "I don't want to be involved in whatever you're mixed up in, dear. I'm sorry." The construction crew that had been regulars for 2 years found a different breakfast spot. No explanation, just empty tables where they used to sit. Even worse were the ones who stayed, but whispered. Elena would approach tables and conversations would die mid-sentence. She'd catch fragments. Mob girlfriend, in too deep, probably sleeping with him for protection. Jennifer quit without notice, leaving a note that simply said, "I can't work somewhere that's going to get shot up. Good luck." The new hire to replace her lasted 3 days before his mother called, begging Elena to let him quit because she didn't want her son working for the Mafia. Rosa stayed, but even she kept her distance. "I'm not judging," she said carefully one afternoon. "But my kids. I have to think about my kids. If something happens here, nothing's going to happen. You can't promise that." And Elena couldn't. That was the worst part. Her personal life wasn't spared either. Her college roommate, Sarah, who she'd stayed friends with for 7 years, sent a text. "Hey, saw the article. I think we need some space. This is too heavy for me right now. Take care of yourself." Her brother Danny called worried. "Elena, what's going on? Mia showed me this blog post with your picture and some mob boss. Tell me it's not true. It's complicated. It's dangerous. You need to quit, get away from this guy." "Danny, he's not what you think." "He's exactly what I think. Elena, Mom died, so we could have better lives, not so you could get mixed up with criminals." That one hurt, because Danny wasn't wrong. Even her landlord stopped by, nervous and apologetic. "Elena, I got families in this building. Good families. If there's going to be trouble following you, there won't be. But if there is, I might need to reconsider the lease. Just as a precaution. You understand." She understood. She was becoming toxic, dangerous to be around. That night, after closing, Luca arrived as usual. But Elena was waiting for him, the blog post pulled up on her phone. "Have you seen this?" She showed him the screen. Luca's expression darkened as he read. "I'll have my lawyer send a cease and desist." "That won't help. The damage is done." Elena set her phone down. "People are scared, Luca. Customers are leaving. My friends won't talk to me. My landlord threatened to evict me. I'll find you a better apartment." "That's not the point." Elena's frustration boiled over. "Don't you see? My life is falling apart because of this. Because of us. Because people think I'm your—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "My what?" "Your girlfriend. Your mistress. Some mob trophy." Luca was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I can stop coming. I can manage the diner remotely through Marcus or Carrington. No more photos, no more speculation." "Hide, you mean?" "Protect you," he corrected. "If my presence is destroying your life, then I'll remove it." Elena stared at him. Part of her wanted to say yes, to take the easy out, to reclaim some semblance of normalcy. But another part, the stubborn, fighter part that had gotten her through her mother's death and years of poverty, rebelled against the idea. "No," she said firmly. "Elena."
No.
"I'm not hiding. I'm not pretending. If people want to gossip and speculate and make assumptions, that's their problem." She met his eyes. "I know the truth. You know the truth. That has to be enough. The truth is that being associated with me is dangerous. The truth is that you bought a struggling diner and gave people jobs and better lives. The truth is that you've been nothing but respectful to me. The truth is that I'm good at my job, and I earned this position." Elena's voice grew stronger. "I won't hide those truths because small-minded people prefer their gossip." Luca looked at her with something like awe. "You're remarkable. I'm stubborn." "That too," he smiled slightly. "But if we do this, if I keep coming here, keep being visible, it gets harder. The attention intensifies. The Corsini situation isn't over. Then we deal with it together." Elena took a breath. "Unless you want to walk away?" "No," his answer was immediate, absolute. "I don't." "Then stop offering to disappear. I'm not some damsel who needs protecting from the big bad world. I'm a grown woman making a conscious choice." "And what choice is that?" Elena held his gaze. "To stand my ground. In my diner. With my life. And if that includes you, then that includes you. Publicly. Honestly. No hiding." Luca stood, moved around the counter until he was directly in front of her. "You understand what you're signing up for. Better every day. And you're sure?" "Completely." He smiled, genuine, warm, the kind of smile that transformed his entire face. "Then let them talk. Let them photograph. Let them speculate. We know the truth. We know the truth, Elena echoed. And as they stood there in the quiet diner, she realized that somewhere along the way, this had stopped being about a cup of coffee or a business transaction. It had become about two people choosing each other, consequences be damned. 2 weeks after Elena's declaration to stand her ground, things shifted again. Luca arrived at the diner at 2 p.m. on a Thursday, unusual since he typically came in the evenings. He wasn't alone. James Carrington, the lawyer who delivered the news about the diner purchase, accompanied him, along with another man Elena didn't recognize, older, distinguished, carrying a leather portfolio. "Elena, do you have a few minutes?" Luca asked. "We need to discuss something important." She wiped her hands on her apron. "Of course. My office." Marcus had converted the old storage room into a proper office for her last week. Desk, filing cabinets, a computer, even a small window. It felt surreal having an actual office. The four of them crowded into the small space. Carrington made introductions. "This is Robert Chen, a business consultant. He specializes in operational oversight for multi-property enterprises." Elena shook his hand, confused. "Multi-property. That's what we need to discuss," Luca said, gesturing for her to sit behind her desk while the men remained standing. "Over the past month, you've demonstrated skills that go beyond restaurant management. Your observation abilities, strategic thinking, and crisis management during the Corsini incident, these aren't common talents. I was just doing my job." "You are doing much more," Luca leaned against the desk. "Which is why I want to formalize your position. Not just as floor manager of Murphy's, but as my operational advisor." Elena blinked. "You're what?" Robert Chen opened his portfolio, pulling out several documents. "Mr. DeSantis owns 17 legitimate businesses throughout Chicago. Restaurants, a laundromat, 2 auto repair shops, a dry cleaner, a small gym, a convenience store. All legal, all profitable, all needing oversight. I don't understand what this has to do with me. These businesses need someone who understands ground-level operations," Luca explained. "Someone who can spot problems before they escalate, identify inefficiencies, read people and situations accurately. That's you." "Luca, I run a diner. I don't know anything about auto repair or gyms." "You know people. You know operations. You know when something's off." He pulled out a chair and sat across from her, his expression serious. "Last month, you noticed a surveillance truck my trained security missed. You spotted behavioral patterns that professional operatives overlooked. You kept a potentially violent situation from exploding through quick thinking and strategic conversation. Those skills translate across any business." Carrington set a contract on the desk. The position would come with a substantial salary increase, $80,000 annually, plus benefits, a company car, and a discretionary budget for operational improvements. Elena's head spun. 80,000? She currently made 32. What exactly would I be doing? Site visits to each property monthly, Robert explained. You'd assess operations, interview managers, review security protocols, identify areas for improvement. You'd report findings directly to Mr. DeSantis and make recommendations for changes. You'd be my eyes and ears, Luca added. Someone I trust to tell me the truth about what's really happening at ground level. Not the sanitized reports managers give to owners, but the real situation. And these are all legitimate businesses? Nothing illegal? Completely legitimate, Carrington confirmed. All properly licensed, all paying taxes, all following labor laws. Mr. DeSantis keeps his business interests strictly separated. Elena studied the contract, her mind racing. This was life-changing money. This was a career, not just a job. But it also meant tying herself even more closely to Luca's world. Why me? She asked quietly. You could hire an MBA, someone with actual business experience. MBAs don't know what it's like to serve coffee at midnight to someone who's forgotten their wallet, Luca interrupted. They don't understand what it means to keep working when your feet hurt and your account's empty and you're one emergency away from losing everything. That perspective, that understanding of struggle, makes you see things others miss. Elena looked up at him. You're serious about this? Completely. I've built an empire. Elena, but somewhere along the way, I lost touch with the foundation. You remind me what that foundation looks like.
I need that.
These businesses need that. She read through the contract carefully. It was straightforward, no hidden clauses, no suspicious requirements. Just operational oversight and advisory responsibilities. What about Murphy's? I can't abandon the diner. You'd still manage Murphy's as your primary location, Robert said. The site visits would be scheduled around your diner responsibilities. We're talking 1 or 2 visits per week, a few hours each. And if I find problems, a criminal activity, safety violations, you report them to me immediately, Luca said. I don't tolerate illegal operations in my legitimate businesses. They're kept clean specifically because I refuse to contaminate them. Elena sat back in her chair, thinking. This was a massive opportunity. It was also a massive commitment. Can I have 24 hours to think about it?
Take 48, Luca said.
This is a big decision. Talk to your family, consider all the angles. But know that this offer is genuine. I trust you, Elena. I trust your judgment, your integrity, and your instincts. That's rare in my world. After they left, Elena sat alone in her office, staring at the contract. That evening, she called Danny. You want my advice? He asked after she explained everything. I want to say run. Get away from this guy and his world. But, you sound different.
Confident.
Like you're finally building something instead of just surviving, he sighed. Mom always said you were the strongest of us. Maybe this is why.
Just.
Be careful, Elena.
Please.
She called Mia next, who was more enthusiastic. 80,000. Elena, that's incredible. You could help me with veterinary school, and Danny could finish his degree without working nights. This isn't about the money, Elena interrupted. Isn't it though? At least partly. Mia's voice softened. You've been taking care of us for years. Maybe it's okay to take care of yourself too. If this guy trusts you, if this is a real opportunity, why not take it? That night, Elena returned to the diner and found Luca in his usual booth. She slid the signed contract across the table. I have conditions, she said. Name them. First, if I find anything illegal, I report it to authorities. I won't cover anything up. Agreed. Second, Murphy's remains my priority. The other businesses can't interfere with the diner. Already built into the contract. Third, transparency. About everything. Your world, your businesses, what I'm walking into. Luca met her eyes. Complete transparency. You have my word. Elena took a breath. Then, I'm in. His smile was genuine, relieved. Welcome to the team, Miss Russo. It's still Elena. Then welcome aboard, Elena. As they shook hands, Elena felt the weight of her decision settle over her. She was no longer just a waitress who'd shown kindness to a stranger. She was part of something bigger now. For better or worse, she'd chosen her path. Elena's first official site visit as operational advisor was to one of Luca's auto repair shops on the south side. It should have been routine, check the books, interview the manager, assess the operation. Instead, she found the connection that would end the Corsini family's harassment. The shop manager, a man named Pete Kowalski, seemed nervous during her walkthrough. Not guilty nervous, but worried nervous. When Elena asked him about customer traffic patterns, he hesitated. We've been getting some weird customers lately, Pete admitted. Guys who bring in cars for minor work, but they spend more time asking questions about the neighborhood, about other businesses, about Mr. DeSantis's properties. Elena's instincts prickled. How long has this been happening? 3, maybe 4 weeks. Ever since Murphy's Diner had that incident, Elena pulled out her phone and called Marcus immediately. I need you to run background checks on recent customers at Pete's Auto Repair. I think the Corsini family is using Luca's own businesses to gather intelligence. Within 2 hours, Marcus confirmed her suspicion. 5 different customers at 3 different DeSantis properties, the auto shop, the gym, and the laundromat, were connected to Corsini front companies. That night, Elena spread a map across her desk at Murphy's. Luca, Marcus, and Robert Chin gathered around as she marked locations with red pins. Look at the pattern, Elena said, drawing lines between the pins. Every property they've targeted is within a 3-block radius. They're not gathering general intelligence, they're mapping a specific territory. This territory, Luca said, tapping the center of the circle. Murphy's Diner sat at the exact middle. They're planning something bigger than extortion, Marcus muttered. This is invasion prep. Elena studied the map, her mind working. Pete said they asked about delivery schedules and employee shift changes. That's not random curiosity. They're looking for vulnerabilities. Times when security is thin. When are we most vulnerable? Luca asked her directly. Elena didn't hesitate. Tuesday and Wednesday mornings, 4 to 6 a.m. That's when deliveries arrive, when there's only one security guard, and when I'm not here yet. If they wanted to send a message, damage property, intimidate staff, that's when they'd strike. Luca looked at Marcus. Can we turn this around? Use their intelligence against them? Absolutely, Marcus's smile was predatory. If we know when they're planning to hit, we can be ready. More than ready. I have a better idea, Elena said quietly. Everyone turned to her. Don't just stop them. Expose them. Over the next week, Elena coordinated what Marcus called the most elaborate trap I've seen in 20 years. She identified every Corsini operative who'd visited DeSantis properties, every fake customer, every surveillance attempt. She documented everything: photos, timestamps, license plates, recorded conversations. Then she did something unexpected. She contacted Detective Sarah Morrison, a Chicago PD investigator she'd met years ago when her mother's purse was stolen. I need your help, Elena told her over coffee at a neutral location. But you have to trust me. She laid out everything: the extortion attempt, the surveillance, the fake customers gathering intelligence. She provided documentation for all of it. This is Corsini family operations, Morrison said, flipping through the evidence. How did you get all this? I pay attention. And I have resources. Luca DeSantis's resources, Morrison's expression was unreadable.
Yes.
But what I'm giving you is legitimate evidence of criminal activity. Extortion, conspiracy, surveillance violations. All prosecutable. Morrison studied her. Why come to me? Why not let DeSantis handle it his way? Because I don't want a war.
I want justice.
There's a difference. Morrison took the evidence. I'll need to verify all of this. Verify away. It's all real. 3 days later, on a Tuesday morning at 5:47 a.m., 2 Corsini operatives attempted to vandalize Murphy's Diner. They cut through the back fence, carrying paint and tools, clearly planning significant damage. They were met by Marcus and 6 security personnel, along with Detective Morrison and 4 police officers, all with body cameras running. The Corsini men were arrested on the spot. But Elena's plan didn't stop there. Using the arrested men's phones, police traced the operation back to 6 Corsini front businesses: fake property management companies, a shell construction firm, and an investment consultancy that existed only on paper. All operating illegally, all engaged in money laundering and extortion. By that afternoon, federal agents raided all 6 locations simultaneously. The Chicago Tribune ran the story the next morning. Federal raid dismantles North Side crime operation. Anonymous tip leads to multiple arrests. Elena read the article at the diner counter, coffee cooling beside her. Lucas sat across from her, reading his own copy. You did this, he said quietly. You ended a 20-year criminal enterprise with observation and strategy. We did this, Elena corrected. Your resources, Marcus's security, my observations. Teamwork. The Corsini family is finished. Their legitimate fronts are exposed, their operations dismantled, their leadership facing federal charges. Luca folded the newspaper. All because you paid attention. Elena looked around the diner. The gleaming counters, the comfortable booths, the staff working efficiently. Rosa was serving regular customers who'd started returning. Sam was whistling in the kitchen. The place felt alive again. I understand now, she said softly, what this place really is. What's that? Not just a diner. It's a statement. A line in the sand. This is your territory, but it's also my home. My team. My responsibility. She met his eyes. I didn't just choose to work for you, Luca. I chose to build something worth protecting. And you protected it brilliantly. We're not done though, are we? There will always be another threat, another challenge. Probably, Luca admitted. Is that okay? Elena thought about her mother, who'd fought cancer with dignity and courage. About Danny and Mia, who were thriving because she'd sacrificed for them. About the choice to pay for a stranger's coffee with her last $5. Every choice had led her here, to this moment, this place, this life. It's more than okay, she said. It's exactly where I'm supposed to be. Lucas smiled, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked genuinely at peace. Then let's build something lasting, he said. Already started, Elena replied, raising her coffee cup. He raised his in return, and they drank to new beginnings in the diner where it all began. 6 weeks later, Murphy's diner looked like something out of a magazine. The lunch rush was in full swing, every booth occupied, the counter seats filled, a small line of customers waiting patiently by the door. The espresso machine hissed and steamed as Rosa pulled perfect shots. Sam's orders flew out of the kitchen with military precision. The new servers, Elena had hired 3 after the Corsini situation ended, moved efficiently through their sections. And Elena walked the floor with the confidence of someone who'd earned every inch of her position. Mrs. Chun, how's the oatmeal today? Elena stopped at booth 4, where her old regular had returned after reading about the federal raids. Perfect, dear. As always, Mrs. Chun smiled warmly. I'm sorry I stayed away. I was scared. You don't need to apologize. You're back now. That's what matters. At the counter, the construction crew had reclaimed their usual spots, laughing over coffee and Danish. Mr. Patterson was in his corner with the Tribune. New customers mixed with old regulars, and the diner hummed with the kind of energy that came from a business truly thriving. Elena checked her watch, 2:30 p.m. She had a site visit at the gym at 4, then paperwork to review for the convenience store expansion. Her new life was busy, demanding, sometimes overwhelming. It was also extraordinary. Elena? Rosa called from behind the counter. Your 2:45 is here. Elena turned to see Luca entering through the front door, and her heart did that thing it had been doing lately. That skip, that flutter she'd tried to ignore for weeks. He'd stopped trying to blend in. Now he owned his presence, and somehow that made him less intimidating. He wore a charcoal suit, expensive but not ostentatious, and when he smiled at her, it was genuine.
Warm.
Office, he asked. Give me 5 minutes. She finished her rounds, checked with Sam about dinner prep, confirmed Rosa had the floor covered, then headed to her office. Luca was already there, looking out the small window at the bustling street beyond. You wanted to see me? Elena closed the door behind her. I wanted to give you this. He handed her an envelope. Inside was a check. $50,000. Elena stared at it. What is this? Your quarterly bonus. The operational improvements you've implemented across all properties have increased revenue by 18%. You earned this. Luca, this is too much. It's exactly right. He leaned against her desk. The gym membership increased 40% after you suggested the family discount program. The laundromat profits jumped after you reorganized the pricing structure. You've transformed every business you've touched. This is your share of that success. Elena set the check down, overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. Say you'll have dinner with me tonight. Not business dinner. Not manager and owner. Just dinner. The request hung in the air between them. They'd been dancing around this for weeks, months, really since that first night. The conversations that lasted too long. The glances that held too much meaning. The careful distance they maintained, because crossing that line felt dangerous.
Luca.
I know what you're going to say. It's complicated. I'm your employer. There's a power dynamic. You're worried about perception. He moved closer. But Elena, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since the night you paid for my coffee with money you needed for yourself. That wasn't about the $5. It was about who you are, kind, strong, unwilling to let the world make you cold. You've said that before. Because it's true. Because in my world, everyone wants something. Everyone has an angle. Except you, his voice softened. You just wanted to help a tired stranger. And somehow, that simple act of kindness changed everything. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. It changed everything for me too. I was drowning, Luca. Working myself to death, barely surviving, wondering if this was all my life would ever be. Then you walked in, and suddenly I had opportunities, purpose, a future beyond just getting through the day. So, have dinner with me. Let me take you somewhere nice. Let me thank you properly for saving me that night. You already thanked me. You bought me a diner. She laughed through her tears. Then let me thank you for being brilliant, observant, brave, and stubborn enough to stand your ground when everyone told you to run. He reached for her hand. Let me thank you for seeing me. Not the reputation, not the power, not the danger, just me. Elena looked at their joined hands, then up at his face. The weariness she'd seen that first night was gone, replaced by something lighter. Hopeful. One condition, she said. Name it. No hiding. No pretending we're something we're not. If we do this, we do it honestly. I won't be your secret. I don't want you to be my secret. I want you to be my partner. In business, in life, in everything. He squeezed her hand. If you'll have me. Elena thought about the girl who'd walked into this diner 3 years ago, desperate and exhausted and alone. She thought about the $5 she'd given away without thinking. She thought about the winding path that had led from that moment to this one. Yes, she said simply.
Dinner.
Tonight. Luca's smile could have lit the entire city. That evening, as Elena prepared to close the diner for the night, she stood in the center of the floor and looked around. The beautiful renovation, the thriving business, the team that worked like family, the life she'd built from nothing but determination and one small act of kindness. Rosa caught her eye and grinned. You look happy. I am, Elena said, surprised by the truth of it. She was no longer the exhausted waitress, surviving on tips and hope. She was Elena Russo, manager, advisor, partner. A woman who'd taken a chance on kindness and found everything she'd never known she was searching for. Outside, Luca's car waited at the curb. He stood beside it, patient and steady, ready to take her somewhere beyond the diner that had brought them together. Elena locked the door, flipped the sign to closed, and walked toward her future. It had started with $5 and a cup of coffee. It had become respect, partnership, and love, slowly brewed, like midnight coffee, perfect in its own time. And as Luca opened the car door and she stepped into the warm evening, Elena knew this was just the beginning. The best was yet to come.